Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and as promised I'm producing another video because the last video I produced is up to 35 likes and counting after just one day, which is really pleasing. A little bit surprising, really pleasing. I'm not going to make a similar promise on this one because it'll mean I'm making videos every day, and to be honest I just don't have the time to do that. And I don't really want to do that either. But we'll make another video later in the week if this video we're making now gets past 40 likes. Let's just try and keep pushing the boundaries, and that's quite a big ask given that well, it'll get there eventually, I would hope, but maybe in a short period of time, maybe it won't get there. But yeah, I'm enjoying making the content again in this format, and it seems that you guys are enjoying it too. So if it's not broke, let's not try to fix it, and we'll just get straight on with the review. This is from a session I played late last night, Monday night on Sky. Typically not the sort of night you'd expect to find too many good games, but we managed to get in, I think it was 3 decent games last night. I was a little bit distracted during the session because I was also playing some of the Micro Millions tournaments on Sky. So again, not looking forward to seeing some of the lines I took. I've got a feeling we're going to be looking at maybe being a little bit weak again in some spots from memory. I haven't looked back at any of the hands, but we'll see. And if I am, then I've already had some thoughts about this because I kind of already know, or I think I know what I'm going to see. And I think table reduction is in order. I probably shouldn't have been trying to play 2 different sites and record a video when I'm using OBS and flicking between screens and what have you. It's not going to bring out the best in me, but I wanted to make the video and the game seemed good, so fuck it, I did it. So anyways, let's get on with the hand. This is the first hand. We have 2 weak players in the pot. This guy here is, in my opinion, one of the best regulars on Sky at 30-0. He's reporting that he's having a bad year, and he commented last night that he's having a really bad month. I think maybe he's just a bit battered and bruised. He just seemed to be giving quite a lot away in the chat box about where he is, where his headspace is. I like the guy, and if you do ever get around to watching this, I hope it either works out for you if you watch it quickly, or if you're watching it months down the line, I hope it has worked out for you, because you're too good a player to be having the type of year you're having, and know that you play professionally or you play poker as your main income source, and you have been talking about perhaps not being able to do that anymore. I hope that isn't the case, and good luck to you, sir. Anyways, he's not going to be in this pot, but we are. So we defend the big blind with the call. We get not a very exciting flop. We do get an exciting turn. This player leads out here on this turn. I think he could be doing this with not a wide range in terms of having too many weak hands, but he can certainly be doing this with some ace X. Maybe just a high club like a jack of clubs or a king of clubs, and obviously some queen X, pocket sixes as well. But overall, pretty sure we're ahead of him at this point, so we went ahead and we made a raise. So our friend comes along here too, and we're not unhappy with the situation at the moment, or we weren't on the turn. When this river card comes down, I was just like, oh bloody hell, that's not good. We've got like multi-way action in on a paired board that's now got 4 to a flush. And I think right now our queens, they're worth about as much as a promise from a liar, aren't they? So I was firmly in check fold mode here. Obviously a little bit disappointed. It's just so hard to imagine this guy doesn't have a club here. Although what club he can have, mid-10 or jack of clubs, maybe, who knows. But if he, maybe he's bluffing. But even if he's like betting a queen here, it's like, what queens do we beat? So I was disciplined and made the sad face fold. I'm not sure if this hand goes straight into it. I don't think it does. I think we're just going to end up check raising here and winning. Don't think this hand is part of the ones we were going to review. No, it wasn't. So on to the next hand. We have the ace and the king, different suits. Unknown, almost, well, definite fish. Calls our 4x. Be 4x because this player here had posted 4x wouldn't be my typical raise size under the gun. We check this flop, not with the intention of folding. I actually had the intention of just check shoving here, and then we could just get him to like stab sometimes with some of his weaker hands that may or may not fold to a raise, but who cares? And then some stuff that will fold. And sometimes we just got the best hand as well. So when we do like check call, we can have the best hand too. We've got an SPR 2-1, and it's a board that's going to be hard for him to have hit. And if he does already just have a pocket pair, then we have what, like 25% equity with our overs, a little bit of backdoor flush draw equity. So we have probably close to 30% versus his range that has us beat, unless he has a 6, of course. And then we're ahead of some of his other stuff too that he bets. So I think checking seems good here. He goes all in, we call quickly, and we drag down a small one, and that was quite nice. And we move on to the next one. So here we are at a 20-0 table here. We have the king queen under the gun, and we elect to raise, of course. So we flop an open end straight draw, 2 overs. This player was particularly active. I don't say his VP was huge. I mean, if I had to guess, my guess would have been it would have been looser than a typical player, but not like maniacal. But he did seem to be somewhat active post flop. So I think we're going to see bet here. I could also definitely envisage going for a check raise from time to time too against someone who's pretty active post flop with this hand. But yeah, I think we did go with the c bet here, and I think that's fine. I think either c betting or check raising is going to be okay here. We did decide to c bet. Our man called. We turned a pair, and we bet again by the looks of things. He goes all in. Pretty easy call against someone as active as he is, and he just turned up with the ace 10, and that was a nice one to drag down. I'm not a huge fan of calling big turn shoves with just one pair. I get we had the draw there too. I guess a lot of players there I would have been quite sad, quite disappointed with the situation, but against this guy, the way he'd been playing, it just seemed like an absolutely mandatory situation, and I thought I was going to be good a decent amount of the time, and when I'm not good, then we just have to hope to get there, don't we? We didn't need to get there that time, and yeah, it was a nice pickup. So we missed the pre-flop action on this one, but pretty confident that I'd raised 3x, and we've been called by the 2 players at the table that we want to be playing pots with, and we flop a flush draw. I think no real reason not to c bet this flop. We're happy to get some action. We wouldn't necessarily want to be raised too much, wouldn't be too excited by it, but at the same time, against 2 weaker players with a strong draw and an overcard, I don't think I'd be going anywhere. I think I remember how this hand went down. So this dude goes with a check raise, and in a moment you're not going to see because it's blurred out, but I do check my notes on this play. This is when notes are like really quite important, because the note tells me that this player is capable of being a little bit spewy post flop and not necessarily always super strong when he's putting lots of action in. Nevertheless, we are still facing a check raise, which is likely to indicate he's not just got a complete airball here. You know, we could easily be up against a top pair type hand, even a second pair with this dude, maybe a worse draw. But at this stack depth, he had like just over 50 blinds when we got to the flop. I think it's just a matter of piling money in. I think we're going to be okay versus range. We're probably a coin flip against his middle pairs. Obviously, we haven't got tons of equity against his Queen X. Maybe got like 30% equity against that. But if he ever turns up with a draw here, it's very likely to be a weaker draw than ours. So I think we're going to be doing okay versus his range here, and we can't play scared. So pretty sure I just piled the money in and hope to win. And we actually got it in ridiculously good. He just had not ridiculously good. He had a gut shot and two paired outs, not two paired outs, pair outs. They had two of them, not outs to two pairs, if that makes sense, which of course it does. So I was pretty pleased with the situation, of course. Then he turned the A, and all of a sudden my hand's looking not the most exciting. Unfortunately, we river the nuts and drag down another much needed pot. So again, we didn't catch the pre-flop action in this hand. It looks like it's just been a multi-way limped pot at 30, and it looks like I just completed versus two limps from the small blind, which is what I'll do with my medium pairs. I think raising these medium pairs versus two limpers when out of position is just a license to want to cut your own wrists further down the line when they don't call and we don't flop a set, and then you're like, oh fuck, now what? So I'm usually just going to complete with my small pairs. So you're probably raising like maybe 9s plus, maybe 10s plus. And then obviously like decent high cards and things would be my raising range, which is two fishy limpers. But anyway, we flop a set here. What would I like to see myself do? I think we just need to lead out here straight away. There's all kinds of action we can get from lots and lots of worse hands. Don't want to risk checking and giving a free card. Let's see what I do. But this is what it feels like I should do now, is just lead out pot. No messing, no half pot, no 3/4 pot, whatever. Just lead out pot. Hope to get some action. That's what we do. Find a caller and a jam. And now the question is just, well, we already know what the answer is going to be. Do we just call here and allow this guy to come along, or do we just jam now? I think jamming now is easily the best line. If we do call and he calls us like tons of turns, he's going to like either kill our action or put us in a really shitty spot. If he comes along too, if he's like flopped it as well, if he's like, I don't know, if he's got the whatever the straight would be, the 8-6, guess is possible. 6-3, maybe less so, but who knows? If he's got the straight, then never mind. We just need to make a boat and fill up, don't we? So we do go with the rejam. And we get it in remarkably good against someone who just overlimped the King 5 offsuit. And we drag down another useful pot. So another 20-nil hand here. Same table as earlier. We have this kind of, my read on this dude is he is kind of a little bit like, he's certainly like loose passive pre-flop. Tends to get aggressive post-flop, uses big sizings when he's strong. He's got pretty reliable sizing tell. When he's strong, he just tends to mash huge bets in. I don't know if he sometimes does it with his bluffing too or not, but I know he's like he tends to use big sizings an awful lot post-flop. Not sure if he does it in response to weakness or just purely based on his hand strength. He certainly builds up some big stacks. What he does do is he seems to be remarkably good at getting value for his strong hands. I don't think he's a good player at all, but I have seen him build up some pretty impressive stacks. I've also seen him torch some pretty big stacks too, by being a little bit too stationary and what have you. So yeah, he's an interesting recreational player to play against. We obviously isolate him on the button with the ace-8 suited. He calls And I would expect him to donk here quite a lot when he has a pretty strong hand. If he had like King X plus, I would expect him to donk. If he had like King Queen, King Jack, King 10, that type of thing, I'd expect to see a pot donk. So when he doesn't bet, I'm putting him kind of in like a middling strength hand that's going to check call line or just stuff that's going to check fold. Don't think he's going to be particularly strong here when he checks. It's just not the read I've got on the dude. So we elect to go with the C-bet, just trying to fold out some hands that have equity against us that we may be ahead of. Sometimes maybe get him to fold a slightly better hand, like if he's got pocket fives or pocket sixes or something. He calls, and when he takes the check call line, and then this jack comes on the turn, which fits in quite nicely with like the king and the nine and what have you. It's not a situation where we're going to try and bluff the dude. I think if he's got a nine, he's maybe not certain to fold it. I said, don't think he's got a king. I think he plays his kings much differently to this. But I'm not sure he's going to fold a 9. He could easily have like a 10, like a jack in his hand with a jack, queen, jack 10 type hand that I know he's not going to fold. So at this point, I'm just kind of giving up, to be frank. Not trying to bluff not trying to bluff a station, and just not getting out of line versus these players. We do hit the ace on the river. And I wasn't looking forward to him betting big here, but as it happens, he just bets half pot. And as I said, I think if he had like a strong ace or a decent ace or two pairs, he would bet bigger. Don't think he's betting a king at this point, which I don't think he has a king anyway. I don't think he's betting a 9. I don't think he's betting a jack. So I don't really know what he was betting here. My read was that he probably wasn't strong based on what I believe is a reasonable sizing tell I've got on the dude. But there's clearly no reason to raise, and give him a read. No real reason to fold either. Maybe he has some draws that have missed, and he actually had the 2 5s, so that is definitely a victory for paying attention and understanding what opponents' sizings mean in different situations. If we get good reads on these players, we're going to do so much better against them than we are if we just treat all fish equally, if you will. So here we are in the big blind. We've defended an open versus this regular who we talked about earlier, who I think is definitely one of the better regulars in these games. We chat a lot. He seems like a nice guy. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he thinks and probably correctly, thinks I'm pretty weak tight. I especially am against regulars who I think are quite good. I just don't go out of my way to get involved in battles with them, and try to have it most of the time against them. But that said, we can't just like play 2 weekly versus them. We have to try and do a few things from time to time. I remember this hand. I haven't like reviewed it again now, but I just remember it straight away. And yeah, we do something here that I think he probably wouldn't expect from me too often. It's a pretty dry flop. We check. He bets. And if this fishy player on the button had called, I probably would have either called or folded. Probably leaning more towards the fold than the call. But when he doesn't call, I think here I can rep sets pretty well. I could certainly have pocket fives, pocket sixes played in the same way with the check raise. Wouldn't have jacks because we'd be squeezing jacks for sure with the fish calling on the button. So I don't have much of a value range here. It's quite narrow, but I also don't have many bluffs either because of the board texture. I guess like 8-7 would be a better bluff, 4-3 would be a better bluff. But I decided to go with the check raise here against someone who I thought thinks I'm tight, so I thought I would get a lot more credibility against like a weaker, someone who maybe isn't thinking, who I don't think is thinking about how I play. Maybe I'd wait for an open ender to mix some check raises in here, not a good shot. But against this player, I think he's going to like give me a lot of credit here, and fold a lot of hands. He's obviously not going to fold over pairs or anything like that. But if he is just like randomly stabbing 2 overs or what have you, then I think we can get him to fold them a lot. I don't think he's going to be betting like middle pairs and stuff here, not with the fish in the pot. And this guy does c-bet not super frequently. He's not overdoing it, but he certainly does it at a high enough frequency that I think we can get some raises and get some folds. So that's what I elect to do. And he folds pretty quickly. And that, in my opinion, is a fine result. I'm very happy with that. It's not something I go out of my way to do a lot, but it's something that I will do just from time to time, just to well, not to try and balance against regulars, to try and be less unbalanced than I am against fish. I'm not a particularly well balanced player in general. It's not something that I strive to put into my game, because usually I'm just mostly playing pots against fish that I would try to exploit, not try to be balanced against. But against regulars, I do try a little bit harder to play a more, I don't know how I want to, don't know how to word it, but against regulars I try a little bit harder to play well than against fish, where I just try hard to make hands and value bet, I guess. So in this hand we have two kings under the gun, and this hand is going to be relevant to a hand that happens later in the session, because I play this hand kind of weakly, and hopefully the justification for that will be demonstrated in a hand towards the end of the session. So please don't judge me too much on this hand. Our opponent, who's a pretty tight multi-table and regular, three bets are, well, I guess middle position open, not under the gun, given we're five-handed. I don't think kings are going to be bad here, but at the same time, again, against regulars, that it's something I will sometimes like flat kings and aces here. I prefer flat and aces to kings for obvious reasons, but I will sometimes flatter then try and disguise the strength of my hand, catch some loose c bets, etc. So we do flat here. I think we do anyway. And we get not the greatest of flops. We're still behind two ace. Queen's just got there. Does Jack 10 c-bet very often? Maybe not. Ace Queen definitely does. We block King Queen. So if you just c-bet here, I think his range is going to be pretty much ace Queen, pocket queens. Don't think he's going to have too many bluffs. We just don't have that dynamic. I expect him to play pretty straightforward in terms of when he's 3-betting my relatively early position opens. So I'm not going to be stoked to see a c-bet here. I'm not going to be that disappointed. We're going to obviously call, but I mean, if we'd seen a much lower dryer flop, say this was like 8-9 deuce or something, I'd probably be willing to just raise and go with it on this board. But when the queen comes, I didn't want to see like an ace, a queen, or a jack. We saw the queen, which puts me behind to some of his range that we were ahead of pre-flop. Does fire out a small c-bet. Don't see that much value in raising here. We should just call and see some turns. Turns of 3. He checks, and I don't necessarily think he's checking here to like just give up and fold. I think he would possibly, maybe I'm wrong, but possibly take the same line with pocket aces, pocket queens, and ace queen. So we get value from some of them, not from others, of course. I guess there's plenty of combos of ace queen, probably more combos of ace queen than there is pocket aces and pocket queens, but nevertheless, I just at this point was reasonably happy to show my hand down against a tight player. I don't think I'm going to get two streets of value, almost certainly. Maybe we get one here if he does have a hand like ace queen, the occasional king queen, and whatever. Maybe we get like one more street of value, but that's about it. I'm happy to check here, see a safe river, and then go from there. Looks like I'm toying with a bet. Do a bet. I thought I checked. Ah, well, there you go. Evidence that I don't like review the hands again before I look at the video. I'm genuinely looking at these first time round again. I'm not looking at them, so this is evidence of it, because I thought I checked back from memory. I thought I checked back, but we thought we could get enough value from his Queen X, I guess. And then I know for a fact to check back this river. At this point, I'm kind of happy with the pot size. I think it's really hard to get value. I mean, of course, if he has ace queen exactly, we're missing value. Um, I don't necessarily think he'd play pocket queens this way. I think he'd probably just like the check raise the turn or lead this river. So I don't think he's got pocket queens. I still think he could maybe have pocket aces. Yeah, maybe this is a weak check back, but as I said later on in the video, hopefully this weak check back will be somewhat validated. I elect to check back, and we beat the two jacks, which is a fine outcome, fine result. Could we have got more value? I'm not sure. I think if we put any more money in on the turn, I think we raised the flop. Maybe pre-flop he just gets it in. I doubt it, but maybe he does. If we raise the flop, he probably folds. If we bet bigger on the turn, who knows? And if we jam the river, he probably folds. So I don't think we could have made much more from that, but it does feel a little bit weak. But it was very opponent specific. Against other players there, it would have been, would have tried to get all the money in for sure. But against this guy, he's pretty tight. He's pretty. I just don't think he's the sort of guy who stacks off light. So I don't think we missed too much value there. So here we go with the next one. There's been two limpers. And as we talked about earlier, versus limpers, I'll not go mad with the raising. We did talk about I would probably raise like 9, 9, 10, 10 plus, and like high cards, suited cards, which is exactly what we do here. Every man and his dog calls, and we flop. Kind of interesting in terms of like, I don't think a c-bet's going to work here to get pairs to fold. So I don't think there's like, I mean, obviously just c-betting is going to be okay because we have so much equity. We would imagine. Obviously we don't have much against random 4x and pocket 7s, but against everything else we probably have pretty reasonable equity. But do we want to, if we bet here, get called in one or two spots and we don't improve the turn, it puts us in kind of a difficult spot, and I kind of want to see the other two cards here a little bit. So if this was heads up, it would just be a pretty easy bet turn. Bet flop bomb turn. But in a multi-way pot, didn't think a bet was going to work too well, and I'd much rather go for a check raise because that has two benefits to me. We just get to like put tons of pressure on medium strength hands, check raising, and also sometimes it just checks through. We get to realise our equity a little bit more cheaply. So check raise was definitely my plan here. This dude just wallops pot, which I didn't think I'd have a ton of fold equity here when I go for the jam versus the pot size bet. But at the same time, it looks like he's making some kind of like protection bet with a weak hand. You wouldn't imagine he'd bet this big with 7s full or 4x. You wouldn't imagine, maybe he does, who knows. But it looked to me more like it was kind of a small pocket pair just trying to protect, or slightly bigger pocket pair trying to protect. Didn't expect to get any folds, but presumed I'd have a lot of equity against stuff like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 6s, 7x, those types of things. And if he's got a 4, then let's get there. So we did go with the jam. And he surprisingly folded. Did not expect the fold there. I thought he was going to be calling the vast majority of the time, but he didn't, and I was naturally very pleased to pick up an extra, whatever that was, 20, 30 big blinds. It was pretty sweet. So here we have the ace queen off. We have this fishy player who's limped under the gun. Unusually, the good regular we've talked about a couple of times this session decides to go with the over limp, which I don't see him do very often, and I haven't got much data from Showdown to really know what he's doing with this, other than to assume it's kind of a weak hand, like a maybe small pocket pair type of raise, like I don't know, deuces through 5s or 6s, maybe some like weakish suited connector type hand that he just wants to see a flop with the fish with. Not sure, presumably it doesn't have very strong hands in it though. Then this fish here, 4x's. We elect to go with a 3 bet, I think it's fine. Well, I think it's more than fine. I think it's good. We don't really want to just flat here and let too many people in the pot. Normally, when I've just got fish to whack behind, or mostly fish, I'm happy to just call on the button with like quite a wide, strongish range to allow the fish to come in. But Ace Queen isn't strong enough to justify wanting to go possibly multi-way to a flop with at least these two players and maybe the big blind too. So we 4-bet, we 3-bet just to hopefully knock everybody else out and then play a pot in position against a player that I think have a pretty big edge over. The plan works. Get a pretty miserable flop, but it's a decent flop in terms of like for our range. We should nothing too much to be scared of. Obviously, we have like aces, kings, queens, jacks here. We're going to fire a c-bet all of the time. We're not going to have any like better bluffs or good bluffs here because we're not going to have like stuff like 9-8 suited very often, 10-9 suited, stuff like that. So we have to find a handful of bluffs here. Ace king I would almost certainly check back. Ace queen, ace jack seem like reasonable hands to see bet. There's just not that much going on the board, and I think we can hopefully just fold out some probably just weaker hands that we just don't want it, that we just want to deny equity to. I don't think he's going to be folding a pair here very often if he's got a hand like pocket twos even. I think he's probably going to want to see one more card, see what we do. So I'm not trying to make him fold pairs here, but if he just is in there with a hand like king jack, king 10, jack 10 suited, all them types of things, if we could just knock him out now and just make him fold 20% equity, then happy with that. So we go with a relatively small c-bet because we're not trying to make him fold anything good, we're just trying to make him fold stuff that has equity. Jack comes on the turn. Alright, what would I do here? I think when we get called, the jack isn't a super scary card. I think he's going to have a lot of stuff like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s. Don't think he has very much jack X at all in his range. I think most of his jack X folds, maybe like stuff like ace jack with a backdoor flush draw or king jack with a backdoor flush draw maybe peels the flop for the sizing that we made. But at this point, you know, we've 3-bet to 14 bigs pre. We've made a smallish c-bet. The pot's mighty big for our hand, and I'm not really in the habit of trying to bluff fish off pairs. So at this point, I think I'm probably just going to go into give up mode. Don't think we have that much showdown value, but we have a little bit. Oh, am I going to fire again? I do fire again. Again, more evidence that I don't like that double barrel, by the way. I don't know why I did it. It's not my usual line to double barrel there. Usually I'm just giving up at that point. Really not sure why I did it. Maybe I thought the jack gave me, you know, some additional fold equity against his middle pairs. Maybe he just thought he'd fold a weakish pair like, I don't know, deuces through 5 to something to a double barrel. Don't know. Don't like it. I think if I'm going to bet there, I should probably size up against the fish and just be really exploitable with like super polarised ranges of like aces, kings, queens, and just some pretty high equity bluffs. I say like a 10-9 suited or something like that. I think we should be on that turn. If we're going to bet, we need to be betting much bigger than I did. Don't like it. Don't like my line on this hand from the turn onwards. Fuck knows what happens on the river. Don't remember this hand at all. I hope I don't spew. Or I hope I get there. Well, doesn't matter now it's happened. Hoping to get there doesn't matter. I think it's a really bad card to bluff on. I've been known to jam in these spots. Common sense gets better of me. And I find the check back. Whether he would have folded 2 10s on the river for like a whatever that would have been, 130% pot. It's a big ask. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. But I think the mistake in that hand was the turn barrel. If we're gonna barrel a turn, we need to bomb it. But not with that hand that we had. I think we should just give up with the hand that we had, and then just be bombing next to like king queen suited, 9-10 suited, ace x suited in spades, and then all our over pairs. Don't like that line I took in that hand, but none of us perfect. And that certainly wasn't. So in this hand, same table as the last hand, we have an ace-10 suited, and we should definitely be going for a 3-bet here. If we go with this sizing, I'm not going to be happy. Don't think it's quite big enough, just 10 big squeezing versus 2 fish. Don't think it's going to get us enough folds. I'd much rather see us go to probably 360 here at the smallest. 390 feels a bit big. 360 I think would be better than £3. Hopefully we click it up another couple of notches. Nope. We don't. And we get called, and we get not an ideal flop. We flop second pair, good kicker, but versus the type of hands I think this guy's going to have here. I mean, we're ahead of all his pocket pairs and things, of course, except the ones that have improved to sets. Not many of them. Probably only pocket eights. I don't know what he does with pocket jacks versus the min raise from the button. Assume he 3-bets it at a decent frequency. But it's going to connect a lot with his kind of call range. He's going to have like 2 broadways a decent chunk of the time and what have you. More than happy just to check back here, I hope, when he checks. Very easy turn call. I mean, we can't check back that flop in a 3-bet pot and fold this turn, so we have a very easy call. Hopefully we don't do anything silly. And then we get pretty good river. I remember the hand now. Remember the hand. He checks, and I go with a small value bet, I think. Not sure what he does though. Yeah, he just folds, so never mind. Not really sure where that one made with the video. Usually something more interesting happens at showdown, I guess. But yeah, fair result. If he'd have raised me on the river there, I'd have been puking, absolutely puking, and probably would have had to fold and just felt really quite cross. But that didn't happen, and we dragged down the pot, which is nice, always nice. So we move on to this next hand, and we didn't catch anything until the turn. I think what had happened in this hand is the player in the cut-off had isolated a limper, I think, and we defended the 8-9 suit in the big blind to try and play a pot with the limper. Could be wrong though. But anyways, the flop definitely checked through, I remember that much. And we turned about as well as we could. So he let to go with a bet here. I think he's going to be checking back some ace-eyes on the flop that are now just probably going to fold. I think he's going to be checking back some pairs lower than the queen, which might not fold now, but would probably fold to a river bet. Just a good spot to just like bet pretty big on the turn versus a flop check back from what I feel like is it's a new player to me. First of all, I had this player tagged as a fish on Saturday, but I since noticed he's playing like 4 tables and he's just a bit like me, really, just a bit dull. It doesn't really do much, doesn't seem to get too out of line. Seems relatively solid. The most reason I tagged him as a fish was he hadn't reloaded once on Saturday night, I think. And also there was like some chat box stuff going on that felt like it was kind of fishy, but never want to stick to a read unless I'm certain, and we did adjust this person to an orange type player. So we decided to probe full pot on the turn, just try and put some pressure on. He's like weak flop check back range. He calls with quite the tank he called, and I wasn't sure. I didn't think he was strong here. Obviously we have no showdown value whatsoever. Being if he has a jack, he's not going to fold it, I don't think, to a river bet. But he doesn't just have to have a jack. He can have like ace 10, ace king, king 10. Plenty of like the stuff that has a high card that just can't call a bet. So he lets it go with the river bet. Pretty big, and he snaps us with queen 10. A fair play to him. I don't hate his check back with queen 10 on that board, and I think once he checks back he probably just needs to call down versus our line on that particular run out. I'm a little bit disappointed and a bit frustrated that I'd fallen into the trap. But I think the hand plays itself. Maybe we could fold pre, but I wanted to play a pot with a limper, and at this point we still had this dude in the big blind, so I was happy to play a pot with this hand. Didn't really let me in out of position to someone who's like maybe a regular, but yeah, happy enough with my decision pre-flop. Flop was just going to be a check fold probably, but he didn't allow us to check fold, and then we turned equity and just bluffed off a few chips. But yeah, if I had that same situation again, I'd play it again the same way nearly all of the time. Maybe not against this dude now. Maybe against this dude we're not going to be looking to attack his flop check back range too aggressively. But yeah, overall versus most players, I would take a very similar line there. It just didn't work out this time, but I think the line's fine. On to the second last hand of the video. We have two queens here at a 20-0 table. This dude on the left here, wasn't familiar with him, but pretty confident he was a fish. He's just tagged from a previous session. He'd been 3-betting me smallish quite often. We'd been doing okayish against him, but nothing special. But I was kind of getting a little bit tired of his 3-betting here. Against someone who was 3-betting with his frequency, queens is just like a super easy 4-bet. Wouldn't be thrilled if he 5-bet, because there's a big difference between pissing around with small 3-bets and then banging a 5-bet in. I think people's ranges are very different for those two things. But I wanted to put more money in the pot against this dude. So we go with the 4-bet, and I think we could probably make it a bit bigger there, actually, given how deep we are. I think 4-bet into 19 blinds. We could have gone up to maybe 22, 23 blinds there quite easily. But get a reasonable flop. No reason to slow play against someone who I think might be a somewhat fishy player, so we go with a upsized c-bet. Normally I wouldn't c-bet that size against regulars, but against a weaker player we're going to make some sizing adjustments, and I think it's a fine sizing. Not in love with that turn. It does connect with some of his like flop calling range, but nevertheless I think queens are still going to be ahead plenty here. So we decide to bet again. Jams, and although I'm not in love with the situation, just a dynamic I had with this player at this time, I couldn't fold. He could do this with jacks, maybe ace 10. If he has some 2 pairs, then we're not in great shape. Don't think it helps you have the Queen of Hearts. We do block some draws. And do I think he's bluffing here? How often do I think people in 4-bet pots are semi-bluff shoving turns? Not very often at all. Not very often at all. But against this player, with the dynamic, that hand's just too strong to fold. Against a regular, this would just be a really sad-faced fold. Against some of the like weaker fish, it'd be a sad-faced fold. But against this dude, he just thought, no, it's just too much likely. Just too likely that my hand's good. So we ended up putting the money in. We were up against ace-jack, so it was a highly delightful situation. Managed to get into a over 300 big blind pot with our opponent drawing to 7 outs, which is slightly more than I was happy with, but given that we could have been crushed, never mind. We'll certainly take it. So we got someone in with like, they got 16% equity in a 300 big blind pot, and sadly they realised it, and that was quite annoying, because that kind of, we'd had a decent grind. We know we'd won some nice pots against some fish. Didn't feel like I played particularly well, but didn't think I played too badly either. And then just like the session, an hour and a half grind, like kind of wiped out in one bad beat. Whatever, it is what it is. It's a bit annoying, but as the saying goes, that's poker. So now we move on to the last hand of the video. We called an open from this play we talked about earlier, who I thought was pretty straightforward, quite nitty, but I thought was kind of capable of, like, not trapping I think is the wrong word, but checking some strong hands when out of position to other regulars. shall we say? Which is why I wasn't super confident with the kings earlier against him in the 3-bet pot. But here we turn a set and we're just highly delighted. The flop checks through. So when the flop checks through and then the regular doesn't bet the turn, he's not about to bet the turn, and we turn a 6, it's just a nuts as far as I'm concerned. This dude maybe has, well, no, he's in the small blind. He doesn't have any straights, doesn't have pocket kings. This player who opened in middle position almost certainly doesn't have any straights. So very confident we have the best hand here. He bets 180. But just to see how deep we had to start the hand. By the way, we're getting on close to 200 blinds deep, 170 blinds deep, something like that. We go with the raise, which I think is obviously completely fine. We're just hopeful here that maybe he's like checked a set of 3s or a set of 4s on the flop. Maybe he's got some King X that he's not super proud of, like a King Jack type hand that didn't want to bet the flop into 2 regulars, thinking he couldn't get 3 streets. Now he's going for some value. We don't represent very much, and we check back this flop and just raise this turn. Our range looks, well, it looks like it's either exactly pocket 6s or some kind of like, well, I don't even know what. I don't even know what our range looks like, because most of our like flush draws just bet the flop when it's checked to us. You know, do we ever have like 7-5 suited here? Not very often, I don't think. So I'm not sure what our range looks like either, but we just need to raise because we've got a set and sets are good. And the opponent then decides to 3-bet us on the flop, on the turn, which gave me like minor cause for concern. I started thinking, could he have the 7-5 here? Again, I just don't think this dude has 7-5 in his middle position range, so I let no one know. He doesn't have straights. Does he have 2 kings that he checked the flop with? Maybe. I think he's got that in his locker. But if he's got 3 kings in his locker, he's also got 3 4s and 3 3s in his locker too. So I kind of thought on balance here, don't want to call and see like a 7, a deuce, a club come off. And I just think he's in the mood to stack off. And I think if we give him all the flop sets that he's playing the same way, if he has been trapping with a set, then we're doing fine. We're doing really well. So I elected to pile all the money in. And at this point, when he's tanking, I'm like, boom, we've got him here. We're going to win a big one, or, well, we're going to win a big one no matter what. Then he does call with the 3 kings, and I was, at this point, I never get angry at poker, or rarely get angry. I got quite angry at this point because, and I think probably wrongly, it felt like he slow rolled me, and he didn't. Looking back at that now, there's no way he slow rolled me. I didn't do myself proud in the chat box, to be honest. I didn't like go totally over the top. I wasn't like fucking Donald Trump tantrum time, but I did accuse him of slow rolling me, and I may or may not have called him a prick, which is not, absolutely not like me. Anyone that knows me in real life knows that I'm not prone to temper tantrums, and I think over the course of making all these videos down the years, I've not been prone to temper tantrums. But having just lost that literally 2 minutes early, losing with the queens to the ace jack, and then losing this pot, we just like lost 80 quid in what, 2 minutes, I think it was, maybe 3 minutes, to just like a bad beat and a total cooler. And I was a little bit cross, to be honest with you. I guess I maybe still have some underlying anger issues from our Saturday session. I'm not sure, who knows. If you are watching this video, you know who you are. I apologise, and when I see you at the table, I will apologise. I now do not believe it was a slow roll, and had I not lost the previous pot with the queens, I wouldn't have reacted at all in the chat, other than to probably just say nice hand or make some kind of dry, sarcastic comment. Not about you, but just about poker in general. So yeah, if you are watching this, I do apologise, and I will apologise to you at the table, and hope that you understand that sometimes our emotions get the better of us, and we don't always conduct ourselves in an appropriate manner, and I certainly didn't after that hand, so many apologies. So yeah, at the end of that session, at the start of the session, we were slightly at our highest point for the month. We'd completely recovered from Saturday's downswing and like bad gambling exploits, and I was kind of at my high point. I was ready to push on and maybe take my monthly winnings, give myself a chance of making like £600-700 for the month. After that session, it's knocked us back a little bit. I'm not sure what my profits are for the month now because Sky takes a day to update, but I think we're going to be like below 300 on Sky and the 60 odd pounds on Unibet, so it's still fine. Halfway through the month, up £300, but it's kind of been a bit of a roller coaster a few days. And to you guys who play like high volume, you don't see a roller coaster of a 4 buying downswing Saturday, 6 buying upswing like Saturday and Sunday, and then another 2 or 3 buying downswing. To you, that's just fucking completely normal. But for me, who enjoys game selecting, doesn't play high volume, and isn't used to losing more than like a buy-in in a session very often. It seems a little bit more swingy to me. I know it isn't, and I know there's nothing much I can do about the 2 last hands. Maybe we lost too much with the 6s there. I don't think we did. Obviously the Queens was fine. But yeah, disappointing. But the grind goes on, life goes on, and I'm sure I'll be absolutely fine. The one last comment I do want to make about this hand in particular is kind of backs up why I don't like playing with regulars too much, because when you are like playing deep stacks with regulars, the only way you get into these like 100 and whatever this is, 160, 170 big blind like losses, or the 300 plus big blind pots. The only time you get into them is in cooler situations. Against fish you can get your money in really good, like we did with the pocket queens. You can get people in crushing them like 80-90% and just crushing them. Against regulars that isn't the case. You're either going to be in a coin flip situation at best, or in a cooler situation where you're looking to be on the right side or the wrong side of it, which is why I don't like playing much with regulars. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of them things. I mean, we have to play with regulars if we want to play with people like these 2 fish, but this wouldn't be the ideal table for me. Perhaps on another day I would have seen myself leaving this table was like pretty deep with 3 decent regulars, or 2 decent regulars and 1 not sure, and not that deep with the two fish at the table. Like the 2 fish have like a buy in a bit between them, and then the 3 regulars had like 6 buy-ins or more between them. So it's not the ideal situation. I'm out of position to the biggest fish. Perhaps I could just have left this table and this situation would never have happened. And that isn't me playing results. I just think like sometimes I could leave tables earlier than I do and find some better tables. And perhaps this was one of them times, because playing like pretty deep with some good regulars and playing pretty shallow with some weaker players, it's not an ideal situation. It's not the situation that I want to create for myself. You guys are probably thinking, what the fuck is this fat nit talking about? But that's how I think. It's how I approach the game. And I think this one was avoidable. 2 queens obviously wasn't. I think this one was avoidable had I identified earlier that the situation probably wasn't great and we probably could have found a better table. So yeah, I'll leave you those with their thoughts. Please, if you have got this far and you haven't subscribed yet, please like, share, subscribe, and if you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, please do come over and join, and you'll be made most welcome. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I certainly didn't enjoy the last 2 hands of it, but yeah, we're back again. Not sure when, probably sometime later in the week, hopefully with some more of the same, but with just better results. Take care everybody, and bye bye for now.